A fading Hollywood star takes a chance on an experimental drug to regain her youth. But what starts as a simple fix quickly spirals into a nightmare as the drug's effects mutate her in terrifying ways. The movie kicks off with a culinary masterpiece, straight out of a mad scientist's cookbook. A mysterious substance is injected into an egg yolk, and voila, a second yolk sprouts, creating what might finally qualify as the ultimate sunny-side-up egg. Who knew breakfast could be so cinematic? Next up, we're on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where workers unveil a shiny new star bearing the name of Elizabeth Sparkle. Fans flock to snap pictures and bask in the glittering legacy. But fast forward a few years, and the tile is cracked, ignored by passers-by, unless someone needs to retrieve a dropped burger. Fame truly is fleeting. The once glamorous Elizabeth now battles the fallout of fast food and fading fame by hosting a TV aerobics show. Decked out in neon spandex, she motivates her audience to shake what their mama gave them, because, if nothing else, it's cheaper than therapy and fries. After wrapping up her 50th birthday aerobics shoot, Elizabeth heads to the restroom, only to find it out of order. With no other choice, she ventures into the men's room. While hiding out in a stall, she accidentally overhears producer Harvey on the phone, scheming to replace her with a fresh-faced starlet. Talk about a birthday buzzkill. Later, while discussing her impending dismissal over lunch with Harvey, Elizabeth notices a fly swimming lazily in her wine glass, a grim metaphor for herself, trapped in the sweet excesses of her former glory, blissfully unaware that her time is almost up. On her way home, Elizabeth gets distracted watching workers tear down a billboard featuring her once iconic face. Lost in the bittersweet spectacle, she crashes her car. Though she escapes with barely a scratch, the emotional wreckage hits hard, leaving her sobbing in the hospital, overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness. A young medical intern with an odd, unmistakable birthmark gives Elizabeth a final check before discharging her from the hospital. As she leaves, he discreetly slips a mysterious flash drive into the pocket of her coat, because nothing screams "trust me" like unsolicited clandestine tech. As Elizabeth exits the hospital, she bumps into an old classmate, Fred, who seizes the moment to invite her out for drinks. Ever the charmer, he scribbles his number on the back of a lab report, only to promptly drop it into a nearby puddle. Smooth, Fred, real smooth. At home, Elizabeth watches the video on the flash drive, which pitches a serum that supposedly creates a clone from her DNA, a body she could inhabit every other week. Dismissing it as the rough draft of a rejected Black Mirror episode, she tosses the flash drive into the trash. But later that evening, after a few too many martinis at the bar and a not-so-glamorous moment with the toilet, she digs it out to call the number and place an order. Desperation. Thy name is Elizabeth. On a groggy, hungover morning, Elizabeth receives a pickup code and location. Naturally, the address screams underground pharma, nestled in a sketchy garage that could double as a set for a zombie apocalypse movie. With the supplied key, she crawls through the barely open door like an arthritic spy. Inside, she finds a deserted room so ominous it's practically begging for an Umbrella Corporation logo on the wall. Retrieving her package from a numbered locker, Elizabeth scuttles back home, clutching her questionable haul. Inside the box, Elizabeth finds gadgets for activating the substance, along with neatly labeled food supplies, one set for her younger clone and another for her original self. The instructions are as bizarre as they are specific. Switch bodies every week and remember, you're both one and the same. Because nothing says self-care like sharing a life with your own doppelganger. After skimming the instructions, Elizabeth heads to the bathroom for her first injection. She grimaces skeptically at her reflection in the mirror, muttering something about bad decisions. Moments later, the serum kicks in, hard. Collapsed on the cold tile floor, she writhes as her pupils split in two, and, in a scene straight out of a Cronenberg fever dream, a new body begins to sprout from her spine. Talk about a rough transformation. The young version of Elizabeth looks in the mirror and feels an overwhelming urge to go party and seduce Ashton Kutcher. Not believing her newly changed eye color, she examines herself and notices a familiar birthmark. After throwing up from the shock of being reborn, she stitches up a wound on the back of her older self, the Matrix. Then, she connects a feeding tube to her vein to keep her nourished while she recovers from dysfunction. In the morning, after a shower, the young version starts having a nosebleed from the sound of her own voice, a reminder that she needs to stabilize herself daily using the Matrix's spinal fluid. She has no choice but to extract it and inject her daily dose. While stretching into an impressive split, the young version of Elizabeth spots an ad for auditions to host an aerobics show, her former gig now up for grabs. Determined, she swings by a boutique for a dazzling swimsuit and struts into the audition, introducing herself to producer Harvey as Sue. She lands the job on the spot, but plays it coy, claiming she'll need every other week off to care for her sick mother. Harvey eats it up. Nothing sells better to audiences than a beauty with a heart of gold. On day 2, Sue is whisked into a glamorous photo shoot, and soon enough, billboards featuring her dazzling image start popping up all over the city. The rest of the week flies by in a blur of rehearsals and wardrobe upgrades, as she fully embraces her new role as the face of aerobic chic. After 7 days, Sue uses catheters and needles to exchange blood, and the consciousness trapped within it, with Elizabeth. The original version eats a hearty meal of eggs and connects a nutrient solution to her younger self's body. Elizabeth pays a visit to the studio, where Harvey hands her some forgotten belongings and a farewell gift. Back home, Elizabeth starts piecing together a detailed schedule for her and Sue's body swapping routine. What follows is a torturous wait for the next notification that a fresh batch has been delivered to her locker. Once retrieved, Elizabeth settles into a monotonous rhythm, counting down the days until she can reclaim her fleeting youth. Waking up with a burst of energy, Sue hatches a plan for renovations, starting by tapping around the apartment to find hidden voids. The commotion from her tools catches the attention of her neighbor, Oliver, who initially grumbles about the noise. However, his irritation quickly melts away under the magnetic charm of Sue, leaving him utterly captivated. Having constructed a hidden room, the younger version of Elizabeth tucks away the matrix, ensuring it's well concealed. Alongside it, she stashes a painting, one that hauntingly serves as a reminder of her original self. The secret chamber stands as both a sanctuary and a silent witness to her transformation. After that, Sue heads to the set of her new show, which turns out to be a great success. Producer Harvey can't stop praising the young talent. On the last day of the week, Sue goes out partying, but lingers too long in the arms of a young lover. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's nutrient supply runs out, causing the younger version to suffer a nosebleed. Unwilling to interrupt her night of passion and debauchery, Sue rushes to a hidden room where, against strict instructions, she extracts more spinal fluid to extend stabilization for an 8th day. This backfires horribly. Chunks of flesh start falling off her body right in the middle of an embrace. But it turns out to be nothing more than a nightmare. Elizabeth jolts awake, drenched in relief. However, her apartment offers no solace, presenting an even grimmer reality. The aftermath of last night's debauchery, scattered in chaotic disarray. As she surveys the wreckage, calculating the cleanup ahead, her gaze falls on her hand. One finger, ominously blackened, feels like a twisted teaser for a Netflix adaptation of her unraveling life. Elizabeth's attempts to wash away the telltale signs of aging prove futile. Her deductions and analysis, however, reveal the truth. Sue has overstepped her boundaries during her allocated time. Seeking a solution, Elizabeth makes a call to address her worsening condition. On the other end, she is gently reminded that she and Sue are essentially one and the same, and any consequences of abusing the serum fall squarely on their shared conscience. Frustrated but resigned, Elizabeth tidies up her apartment, only to spot Sue's vibrant aerobics show on TV. Burdened with shame, and despite her growing fury at Sue, still ventures out for her next dose, glancing around nervously like a guilty addict. At a cafe, she encounters an old man who cryptically remarks how the wait grows harder with each passing week. To her horror, she recognizes him as the orderly who slipped her the flash drive. Panicked, she flees, but not before he slyly inquires whether her other half has started nibbling away at her, abusing their shared time. Shaken, Elizabeth rushes home, only to cross paths with Sue's lover, who, unsurprisingly, fails to recognize her. Determined to feel beautiful and desired again, Elizabeth digs up her old classmate's number and plans a date. She dresses up, but the sight of Sue's billboard forces her to tone down her makeup, cover her wrinkles with cream, and hide her neckline with a scarf. Even with these adjustments, her insecurities about her appearance keep her from leaving the house. She ignores Fred's message, waiting for her at the restaurant, and instead retreats to the fridge for a comforting dose of treats. Elizabeth's binge-eating spree takes a surreal turn during a shoot when an odd, fatty lump appears on Sue's backside. Halting the filming, she retreats to the dressing room, where she awkwardly maneuvers the lump toward her navel to extract it. To her horror, it turns out to be an entire chicken drumstick, but thankfully, this grotesque scene is nothing more than a nightmare from which Sue wakes up. Sue notices the aftermath of Elizabeth's indulgence in the living room, knowing it will inevitably affect her youthful figure. On her way to work, she calls the support only to hear the same refrain. They are one and the same. At the studio, Harvey summons her with exciting news. Her ratings are through the roof, and the network wants her to host the New Year's show. However, this opportunity comes at a cost. Sue will need to work tirelessly, consuming more of Elizabeth's allocated time and organic fluid. Day after day, the toll becomes evident as the wound from the biomaterial extraction festers, yet the starlet remains undeterred, driven by ambition. When Elizabeth's turn comes, she is struck by how much she has aged due to the imbalance. The substance's support team suggests ending the process if she is dissatisfied with the results. However, realizing the changes are irreversible, Elizabeth refuses to give up her younger self. Once again, she is reminded that she and Sue are one entity, not two separate individuals, a truth that weighs heavily on her as she contemplates her next steps. Elizabeth, with great effort and an aching arthritic knee, opens Harvey's gift, a cookbook, and dives into a frenzy of culinary experiments. While cooking, the television blares a talk show featuring Sue, her younger counterpart. On air, Sue refers to her elder self as an old-fashioned dinosaur from another generation. The comment infuriates Elizabeth so much that she tapes newspapers over her windows to block out the sight of Sue's banner looming outside, a constant reminder of her torment. Sue's fury is immediate upon discovering the apartment littered with remnants of Elizabeth's culinary experiments. Driven by anger and a desire for control, Sue extracts an excessive amount of fluid from Elizabeth, ensuring she can delay their body-swapping routine for as long as possible. The tension between them escalates as the consequences of their shared existence grow increasingly dire. 3 months fly by, and Sue steps into the spotlight as the host of the New Year's show. The day before filming, she notices that Elizabeth's stabilizing fluid has gone slightly off. Tech support advises initiating the mind-swapping process to restore secretion, but Sue resists. Without stabilization, her youthful body begins to deteriorate. With her last ounce of strength, she crawls to the bathroom to trigger the process, awakening Elizabeth, who now looks like she's ready to guide 2 hobbits through secret trails. The situation takes a sharp turn when Sue's boyfriend knocks on the door, adding an awkward twist. Elizabeth barely manages to send him away with her raspy, elderly voice. Dragging her precious back to its rightful place, Elizabeth picks up the phone to call tech support. With a trembling voice, she informs them of her decision to end the experiment, finally facing the harsh reality of her situation and the consequences of her actions. The next day, as the final batch is delivered to her locker, Elizabeth dresses up as a grandmother and heads to the pickup location. Returning home, she prepares to inject the syringe into Sue's chest, but a voice in her head reminds her that this step will leave her utterly alone. Despite the warning, she plunges the syringe into Sue's heart and administers the contents. At the last moment, however, she changes her mind and attempts to extract the young starlet instead. The effort fails, and in a panic, the elderly woman grabs the mind-swapping kit and injects it into Sue's heart instead of a vein. The result is astonishing. Both versions remain standing, staring at each other in disbelief, defying the dealer's reminder that they are one and the same. Noticing the destruction syringe, Sue lunges at Elizabeth and hurls her against the wall. In response, Elizabeth smashes a vase over Sue's head and, after a brief chase, locks herself in the bathroom. Sue kicks the door down and resumes beating the Matrix dot. The wounded old woman crawls away with the last of her strength, but the younger version, channeling her inner King Leonidas, kicks her into a short yet unforgettable flight. Sue then finishes her off with repeated kicks. After completing the execution, Sue heads off to the set of her show. After trying on her dress, Sue suddenly feels unwell. She retreats to the bathroom only to watch in horror as her teeth start falling out, giving her Hollywood smile a uniquely grotesque charm. She rinses the blood away and steps into the hallway, where she runs into producers. For their sake, she forces a smile, careful not to open her mouth and reveal her dental disaster. Trying to escape via the elevator, she notices her fingernails peeling off. Then, as if putting on an Oscar-worthy performance of late-stage syphilis, her ear detaches and falls to the floor. Sue runs out of the studio and sprints through the streets back to her home, where she finds a vial with a single-use activator. She injects herself, and triggering another process of parthenogenesis. After a short time, a new version of Sue hatches from her, looking like a steroid-abusing, mutated, fast-food-addicted golem. Realizing that her future now lies in hosting only Halloween specials, the monstrous figure dubs herself Eliza Sue, as if the name alone could prevent onlookers from calling her a hideous creature. She then dons a dress, clips on earrings, crafts a mask from a photograph of Elizabeth, and applies makeup to it for added effect, creating a grotesque yet oddly theatrical ensemble. Then, the monster returns to the studio, where she's allowed in without issue. The disgusting, sleazy male producers are eagerly waiting for their star. On live TV, Eliza Sue steps into the spotlight to greet the audience. As her mask falls off, everyone sees her face, which even Deadpool wouldn't envy. Only when she burps out an extra boob does the crowd's ancient instinct kick in to kill the monster. The angry men beat her, ignoring any pleas that she is still the beautiful Elizabeth and Sue. The creature escapes the studio, splattering the hallway with blood until it collapses outside, falling apart into disgusting pieces. A chunk of biomass with Elizabeth's face crawls its way to her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where it catches the last fleeting memories of fan love before dissolving into a puddle. By morning, the janitor had scrubbed away the bloodstain, leaving behind only cracked remnants of a memory, a faint echo of the days when Elizabeth Sparkle once dazzled Hollywood. The film concludes much like the careers of some stars who fade into obscurity after their youthful allure wanes. It's a bittersweet ending, capturing the relentless passage of time and the fleeting nature of fame. Thanks for watching, and please support our channel by subscribing and liking. It will help us make better videos for you.